cocktails. Welcome to the Pandemic Pinup Happy Hour. If you are tuning in from Facebook, I'm going to cue that up now that I'm remembering. We are making cocktails today with yogurt, which sounds really weird. I got kind of in the mood to experiment with some wild things and made it here. I'm really happy with how the cocktails turned out. If you do have the intention of making any of these at home, experimenting with any of these flavors, and you have any questions whatsoever, feel free to reach out. I'm going to try and keep an eye on the Facebook while I'm making cocktails in case anybody wants to just ask questions in that format instead of getting on the Zoom. But good thing to know, I experimented with lots of different brands of yogurt. I used like the generic brand from my grocery store. I think it's called Fago, and then Oikos, which is a Greek yogurt, and I think Chobani. I did try most of the yogurts as Greek-style yogurts. I had a few that were just normal yogurt. The Greek-style yogurts have a much better consistency. They add a lot more creaminess that they add to the cocktail. However, depending on which cocktail we're talking about, some of them leave a very interesting chalky film in your mouth, which isn't entirely unpleasant. It's just very different and uncommon. So I decided to try to experiment with ways to make that go away, because I think when you drink a cocktail, the first reaction should always be like, damn, that's good, or ooh, this is tasty, instead of like, wow, sour, or weird chalkiness. So if that happens later in your thought process, that's okay, but I never want that to be the forefront. So I'm going to show you guys kind of what I did. I definitely have some favorites. I have 2 out of the 3 that are like absolute knockouts. They're all really good, but I'll tell you why I like specific ones while I'm making them. But we'll go ahead and start with what I'm calling the Stone Breakfast. And I'm calling it Stone Breakfast because it's a very breakfasty tasting drink, and it's made based off of ingredients that have stone fruits in them. In this particular case, apricot and peach. So for this one, I'm not using the Greek yogurt. It was just, I think, a normal peach yogurt that I found. You could probably use Yoplait, which is a very normal brand. But all of these cocktails are going to be shaken. I'm serving all of them up, which means without ice. However, they do really well over ice if you want to like drink them for a longer period of time. So for the Stone Breakfast, I've kind of measured out some of these ingredients so I don't have the actual jars. If you want to know specifically what brands I was using, or you want a picture of whatever jar I chose, let me know and I can send it to you. But I have a ½ ounce of apricot jam. And I did it this way in these little bowls, kind of like very chef style mise en place, because doing this in your jigger makes it incredibly messy and you have to still have a spoon to be able to get it all out. So I just measured it in advance and then I'm going to scrape it into my shaker. So I have the ½ ounce apricot jam, and then I have a ½ ounce of peach yogurt. And then I have freshly squeezed lemon juice. I'm going to be using ½ ounce of that. And then we're actually using 2 different alcohols for this. We're going to use a peach liqueur. I'm using Dolphy. They had it on sale at my liquor store. You definitely don't want to use a peach pucker. Definitely a peach or apricot liqueur or brandy. And I'm going to use a 3/4 ounce. And we're going to use peach vodka. Now I'm using peach vodka because I'm really, really partial to this local brand we have here called Western Sun. It's a Texas brand. Their flavored vodkas are amazing. I'm not usually a fan of flavored vodkas. However, these ones are impressive. If you don't want to use peach vodka, you can use regular vodka, or you can infuse your own with some fresh peaches. I'm going to use 1.5 ounces. Just put the rest of that in there. Now we're leaving it in the bottle. So I'm going to put that in my shaker. I'm going to put ice in my shaker. And then I'm going to shake it vigorously. You really want to shake these nice. So anywhere from about 15 to 20 seconds. It doesn't have to be incredibly vigorous, but you do want to make sure it has time to definitely emulsify all the ingredients. Now we shake. Now, if you happen to choose a yogurt that has fruit bits in it, then you definitely want to double strain your cocktail. However, the one I have was a smooth yogurt, so I'm not going to do that. Just going to strain this into the coupe. And then I'm going to garnish this with a lemon twist. I'm going to use my Y-shaped peeler, take a nice swath for my lemon. And then if you've never actually expressed a peel over a cocktail, I've seen people try and do this. This doesn't allow the oils to come out, so you definitely want to use it this way. And then use your fingers to press, and those oils will sit right on top. And you can choose to either toss it or put it in the cocktail. In this instance, I'm going to put it in there. I'll bring it over so we can see it. It's a very delicately colored cocktail, very creamy peach color. Very, very pretty. Yeah, cheers. That's a stone breakfast. It's really nice and refreshing. It's tart, very fruity, but in a really good way. None of it tastes artificial, which was kind of my focus here. A lot of yogurts have artificial flavorings, so sometimes they don't really taste like the real fruit, as do a lot of liqueurs. But all of the flavors combine, and then that lemon juice in there balance it out, and it really makes it taste like fresh fruit, which is my favorite thing about that cocktail. It just tastes like a bowl of fruit, but you can drink it, it's got booze in it. So, moving on, my second cocktail that I'm gonna make, let's see, do these drinks separate over time? So, no, but it depends on how long you leave them there. I was testing these out, and I let the cocktail, I tasted them, modified them, played around with them, and then I would slow sip them to see how they hold up, because it is really important to see if things do separate over time, because nobody likes to have like weird chunkiness floating at the top of a cocktail. But I can honestly say I sat with all of these cocktails individually at least 30 to 40 minutes, and they still have the same texture, they still have the same emulsification. Anywhere over 40 minutes, I'm not entirely sure. I finished my cocktail in that amount of time. If you need more than 40 minutes to finish your cocktail, then maybe make a mini cocktail. But at least 40 minutes, I can verify they hold up really, really well. So for this next one, I am a huge fan of strange products. I love finding things people have never had before, or from other cultures, and introducing them to people who have maybe not had the benefit or opportunity to really learn from those other cultures and their products. So we're going to be using something called Calpico. It is the strangest thing. This is Calpico concentrate. Most people are used to seeing, if you've ever seen it, Calpico soda. So it is a yogurt-based, non-carbonated Japanese soda. It's a really strange concept. So for me, I find it odd that Japan considers multiple non-carbonated beverages as soda. That's very uncommon, at least in the United States. Second, it's yogurt flavored, and it is legitimately yogurt flavored, but it is so good. It's so hard to explain if you've never had it. This is like the classic flavor. They make a ton of different flavors, but it is just a really weird concept to wrap your head around if you're not Japanese. And then I found the concentrate. So if you buy the concentrate, it's a much thicker liquid. It's not as thick as actual yogurt. It's about the thickness of like heavy cream, maybe a little lighter, maybe like a half and half. But when you buy the concentrate, there's like this recipe on the back. Let's see if I can show you guys on camera, where it shows you like this little cup, and you use 4 parts of concentrate, or no, 4 parts water to 1 part of concentrate. And it's very simple to mix. But a lot of places in the US don't know it as Calpico. They know it as Calpis, C-A-L-P-I-S. And I got really into this when I was living in Hawaii. A lot of the Asian restaurants made cocktails with this sodas instead of the concentrate. They sell this at all the stores. I got this at my local Asian grocery store, and it is like super cool. Also, the concentrate lasts forever. So this cost me like $4 or $5. I think you can get it on Amazon if you don't have a local Asian store. But we're gonna make a cocktail called Amber Dawn. And I'm calling it that because the color reminded me of the sun coming up, and we're using amber vermouth. Just walking you through how I come up with cocktail names. Usually they don't really make a whole lot of sense, or they're very, very punny. So that's what this one turned out to be, Amber Dawn. So for this cocktail, I'm going to use 1 ounce of orange juice, preferably fresh squeezed, 1 ounce of grapefruit juice. I'm using ruby red grapefruit juice. I don't recommend this with white grapefruit juice. It tends to be a little bit more astringent and tart, and I don't think it would balance out very well with the rest of the ingredients in this cocktail. Then I'm going to use a whole ounce of Calpico concentrate. We're going to pour that in there. And it's like a weird translucent liquid. I don't know how else to explain it. It's just a very odd ingredient to work with. And then we're going to do 2.5 ounces of amber vermouth. And this is one of those bottles I just kind of picked up to play with instead of my traditional vermouth that I usually have at home, and it's quickly become something that will most likely be a staple in my bar in my house. So we have all of those ingredients in a shaker. Same exact science. We're going to fill our shaker about 3/4 of the way with ice, shake it, and serve it up straight. So this one, you shouldn't have to double strain it unless for some reason you have pulp in your juices. So it's just a regular strain. It's very similar in color to the very first cocktail I made. However, the reason I like this one, like in my top 2 of this class today, is not just because it's this very strange ingredient, but it tastes like an orange creamsicle. And I know there's a lot of cocktails that I've had in the past that are kind of like that, but this one is like the bougie orange creamsicle that got to travel the world and then come back to my brunch table. So this one has a little bit more of a rose tone to it, and that'll be because of the ruby grapefruit juice, but it's almost like a mimosa. Yeah, that is Amber Dawn. The aroma on Amber Dawn is also something that I'm absolutely in love with. The notes from the amber vermouth play around with the citrus and the yogurt, and they create something floral, which is, I don't know how that happens. There is no real like forefront flower type of flavor component in any of the ingredients I'm using, but the amber vermouth just brings forward all these unexpected aromas that are just intoxicating. I love this cocktail. I was playing around with it and then I hit on this particular ratio of the rest. Very quickly drank like 3 or 4 of these in a row. Plus they're low ABV because it is vermouth as a base instead of like a hard liquor. Very, very nice morning drink. And then the last one we're going to make today, moving along kind of quick today, guys. The last one is a beast of a cocktail. It's got a lot of ingredients. It's a very large cocktail. And it's something I'm calling a dirty lassi. Pronouncing that wrong, pretty sure it's lassi, but I like it if it's a dirty lassi because then it's almost like a play on words. But a lassi is like a yogurt smoothie that's usually served in India. And they're usually made with like fresh fruit, yogurt, and some kind of water or tea, and then they get blended and they're really nice. I've tried making boozy ones in the past and I've just had a lot of failures. Then I made this one. And I also got to work with some ingredients that I'm not always able to find. I found kaffir lime leaves, which I absolutely adore. They come in giant packets at my Asian grocery store as well, but they're like this double little leaf. So the simple syrup we're using for this cocktail is a rosemary and kaffir lime simple syrup. Now, if you don't have kaffir lime, kaffir lime leaves, The best substitute, at least for the purposes of a simple syrup, would be not orange, sorry, lime zest. And you use it in wildly different quantities. It would definitely not be the same amount as the leaves. But if you need that conversion, I'll be more than happy to provide that as well when I post the recipes later in the Facebook page. But I was lucky to find them, so I used that. And the syrup is just, it looks like simple syrup. So if you happen to have actual simple syrup in your fridge, you make it home, make sure you either label your containers or put them in a very distinct bottle so you don't get them confused. But combining the rosemary and the kaffir lime leaves is just this beautifully fragrant simple syrup with just enough depth of flavor to complement all the other ingredients. So to make a dirty lassi, the one we're making today at least, we are going to use a 1/2 ounce of fresh lime juice. We're also going to be using lemon curd. That is sometimes found where you find your jams or your marmalades in the grocery store. Sometimes they're in the cultural, ethnic, what have you, areas of your grocery store. There's like a section in mine which is weird European ingredients, and they usually have things from England and Italy and Germany. And that's where I found this lemon curd. It's a very simple thing to make at home as well. There's plenty of recipes online. I'm going to be using a 3/4 ounce of this lemon curd. Put that right in there. Then I'm going to use 1.5 ounces of this rosemary kaffir lime. Put that syrup in there. And depending on the quality of the ingredients that you find, whether it be your yogurts, your marmalades, your curds, then you might want to adjust some of the ratios just for sweetness or tart levels, because not everything's going to be exactly the same if you transfer to another brand. Then we're going to use 3 ounces, a lot of yogurt in this one, 3 ounces of plain Greek yogurt or vanilla yogurt or plain yogurt. Those would be the best options in my opinion. And then we're going to use 1.5 ounces of gin. I'm using my beautiful sip spent for this particular cocktail. And this is going to be a really hefty cocktail to shake. So just make sure you keep your hands very intensely pressed on the shaker. And then we're going to use 1 ounce of cream. So you can also use milk. You can use an alternative milk for this. I have a general rule. I like to ice my shaker before I put the cream in. It helps create a layer of coldness and surface area before the cream hits any alcohol and allows me to shake it before it tries to curdle. Pour that cream in, and then we're going to shake. All right, so this cocktail, like I said, is very large. It is going to end up being about 10 ounces, depending on how much soda you want to add. That's going to be our last ingredient. I'm going to add about 3 ounces of club soda, or in this case, sparkling water. I'm a huge fan of Topo Chico. A lot of places in Texas use it. And I like to pour that directly into my shaker before I serve my cocktail because it helps it mix as I'm pouring. All right, now this one I'm going to double strain just because lemon curd is thicker than a lot of jams. So just in case any chunks or any parts of it didn't really incorporate, my double strainer will catch that. And I'm going to strain this up without ice. And I love that this just looks like the largest glass of milk ever. Right. So to garnish this, because it doesn't have ice, a lot of cocktails without ice are hard to put garnishes in because they tend to try to float like a straw. So I'm gonna just kind of lay these on top. I have these beautiful kaffir lime leaves and this rosemary sprig. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is our dirty lassi. Cheers. Oh, that's really nice. That was really good. So this one is probably my favorite just because I have failed so many times at making an alcoholic version of lassi. But I think the fact that this doesn't have fresh fruit really gives it a lot of room to grow flavor-wise, and it allows the flavor of the kaffir lime leaves and the rosemary to really come through without making it a savory cocktail. So I find that really interesting on my palate. So for me, that's my absolute favorite out of all three. Plus the bubbles just do something with the creaminess from the yogurt that my mouth is just absolutely in love with. But those are our cocktails of the day. I hope you make these at home and try them out and let me know what you think. In larger news, I will be a part of an Instagram Live thing next Friday. I was asked to host a shift, if you will, for Sip Tip Survive, and I'll be posting about that later on the Facebook page as well as my Instagram account, so y'all can have the information. It's basically a 3-hour talk show of me making a cocktail or two, and then decided to bring on some people that I think are pretty cool, that do some pretty cool things. So if you're bored, you want to meet people that I know, come hang out with me on Friday. I think it's 4 to 7 Central Time, information pending. But yeah, it should be interesting. I'm going to have a lot of different people from all kinds of walks of life. I'm going to talk to somebody who's starting a nonprofit, someone who has a company that is very related to the industry that I'm in, someone who does finance, an artist. It's just going to be all kinds of weird. I'm going to sit and drink and talk to people, and you can come hang out and talk to us in the comments and watch me fail miserably at using more technology that I don't know how to use. But before we go, I'm going to double check Facebook. I totally always forget this is here. Make sure there were no questions that I left unanswered, but it seems like we're good so far. My doors are always open though if you need any further information. And yeah, that's the end of our class today, short and sweet. And I'll hopefully see you guys next Sunday. If you're tuning in on Facebook, peace out. Have a good rest of your day.